G'day mate, 40 here. Not gonna lie, my love for Mark Halperin is on the rocks, bro. I got triggered so hard the other day, and it's like when a trauma happens, you may not be able to immediately process it. You may immediately think, no big deal, life goes on. But the trauma, it just lodges in your system, and it has to be worked through. So about 11 o'clock at night, right, the trauma started raging. And I was just triggered so hard from something that Halperin had said to Dan Turrentine a few days previous. So Dan Turrentine talked about somebody being dressed in a wife beater, which is a white tank top, right? No sleeves, white undershirt, similar to a singlet. Worn by the bloke in Streetcar Named Desire, Dan Kozłowski, the Polish immigrant who knocked women around a bit. And here I'm going to be vulnerable with you. I'm going to open up and I'm going to share my heart, bro. So I hope you're going to be respectful of my feelings. So when Dan Turrentine mentioned wearing a wife beater, Mark Halperin said, not that you want to make fun of domestic violence. And I got triggered, bro. I tried to deny it. I tried to go on. I just tried to live my life as though nothing had happened. I freed my neck. I directed my head to release forward and up. I thought about my back lengthening and widening. I let go of everything that I thought I knew. I resisted the temptation to write a ticket for the breaking of one of my unenforceable rules. But then the rage came back last night because people have done this to me all my life. And it reminds me of something tweeted by Michael Cochin, the political scientist, who had it on my show the other night. He said, you can't describe reality in politically correct terms. And so wife beater, it entered the lexicon in the 1990s, I think, as part of rap culture. And it's just a term for a particular type of t-shirt worn by men, worn by a bloke in Streetcar Named Desire. It is not making fun of or making light of domestic violence. It's just a description. And using the term wife beater is not going to cause people to commit domestic violence. It's this nanny state, school mom, priggish desire to continually educate us and hector us and bully us that I have experienced all my life. I'm really tired of it. I just want to be free. I just want to be free to be me and you to be free to be you. And I'm tired of being hectored and lectured and bullied over our language. Right? To say, I'm trying to think how I would have responded if I was talking to Mark Halperin and he said, not that we're making light of domestic violence. I know you wouldn't want to make light of domestic violence. I think I'd say, I know you wouldn't want to be a school mom. I know you wouldn't want to come across as a prig. I know you don't want to be a hectoring, bullying, moralizing, instructing, educating, on high, speaking down to me using plain language. I'm an ordinary bloke using ordinary language. I'm not a fancy man. I'm not a fancy boy. I'm not lighting my loafers. I didn't do my hair before I did this live stream. I'm just a regular bloke using regular language. Americans used to be known for their plain speech. And we don't have to continually prune our language to make nice with every sensibility, all right? We don't stop using terms because there might possibly be a downside to a term like a wife beater, all right? Yeah, there are some downsides for using a term like a wife beater for a particular type of white t-shirt, but that's not the only consideration. There is also great value in being able to speak freely and easily and unselfconsciously, describing reality in commonly accepted language. And so all my life, people have tried to hector me and educate me and spoken down to me, said, oh, you shouldn't use that kind of language. That's dehumanizing. That's making light of domestic violence. It's just a bloody term in pop culture for a particular type of men's undershirt. And I know you don't want to be a prig, right? It's just incredibly annoying. So what's the best way to handle it? So when someone says, I know you don't want to be racist, or I know you don't mean to be sexist, I know you don't mean to make light of domestic violence. It's a sneaky rhetorical trick, and I'm sick of it, and I'm calling the whistle, and I'm throwing a flag. And so we have to have a response ready. So I know you don't want to be a hectoring, smarmy school mom, speech policeman, do you? Right? We have to have that response ready to go when people tell us, oh, I know you don't mean to be making light of domestic violence. Yeah, and I know you don't mean to be the speech police. I know you don't mean to be a hectoring, bullying moralist, talking down to regular working folks such as myself. All right, it's this hyper-educated, Harvard-educated, careful critical discourse that prevented people from saying the obvious, that Joe Biden, certainly as far back as 2017, was showing many of the signs of senility. All right, it's that careful, critical, Harvard-style discourse that prevented our elites and our media from noting the obvious, that Joe Biden was demonstrating signs of senility. All right, there are downsides to plain speaking. All right, there are downsides to off-the-cuff speaking. There are downsides to spontaneity. There are downsides to everything. There are downsides to religion, to prayer, to meditation, to exercise, to drinking water. Right? Everything comes with dangers. Like, don't step on my speech, man. Don't lecture me. Don't hector me. Don't be a prig to me. Right? Don't talk down to me. I don't appreciate it. I'm a fair dinkum Australian. I'm a fair dinkum American. I am a convert to Orthodox Judaism. Here I stand. I can do no other, so help me God. And when it comes to domestic violence, right, I'd be far more likely by my personality to be the victim of domestic violence than to commit domestic violence. Never punched a woman in my life. I've been punched by women many times in my life. So I'm far more likely to be the beaten husband who writes in his diary about it than to be the aggressor. So if I want to use the term wife beater, I don't step on my sacred rights to free speech, free expression, spontaneity. And speaking of spontaneity, terrific article in the New York Times about Elon Musk and Doge. So he came up with the idea for Doge from a Lex Friedman podcast in 2023, and he didn't really have many specifics about how he wanted to go about it until after Trump's election. And then he started talking to people and they said, oh, well, we'll create a commission and we'll propose budget cuts. And then maybe in the second year, we'll be able to make some progress on the budget cuts. And Elon, drawing from his business experience, said, heck no, we ain't going to do that. We need to be radical. That's how to get advertising. We need to be radical. We need to move fast. And so they move with lightning speed. And the article notes they already have pretty much all the passwords that they need, number one. Number two, they've made many cuts that, despite any court orders, going to be very difficult to change. All right, it appears that Doge has made cuts and layoffs that are not going to be reversed effectively by the courts. That even if the court says, you can't do that, it's too late. Right? The Doge team already has the passports. It's already taken actions that can't effectively be reversed within at least this Trump administration. So terrific read, right? And they were moving, right? They were moving into, there was already a Department of Government digital services that Obama had set up in something like 2014 after the botched healthcare rollout. And so Musk's team got the idea of just taking over this department, then using it as the Trojan horse to gain access to the rest of government. And they already had someone on the inside, the Biden administration, I think Mary Gleason, who had the task within the Biden administration of working with the Trump transition. And she is Elon's woman. So she's now the acting head of Doge. And she was effectively working on behalf of Elon while Joe Biden was still in office. And she was trying to hire Elon's acolytes while Joe Biden was still in office. And there are hilarious stories about Elon's acolytes who she was trying to bring on. And in their application, this one dude, the 23-year-old who got a Peter Thiel scholarship for not going to college, who decoded some ancient papyrus that he'd just written one sentence in his application. And so they were already taking action and moving in the Doge direction while Joe Biden was still in office. And then they came in so quickly that they just overwhelmed the opposition. And even though we're going to have court rulings against them, right, the changes they're making, they cannot be easily undone. And they already have all the passwords that they need to monitor how the government spends money. And so if you're pro-Doge, right, you're just going to have a ball reading this article. You're going to laugh and laugh. And if you're anti-Doge, you're going to be mesmerized by the article. So either way, you're going to love this New York Times article. And I just watched Tim Dillon, the gay conservative comic, interview Steve Bannon. And Bannon has changed his tune on Elon Musk. Right? In this interview, Bannon's positive comments about Elon Musk, right, outweigh anything negative by 5-1, 10-1. So a week ago or so, Bannon was calling Elon Musk evil. He's now completely changed his tune on Elon Musk. So that's exciting, because you don't want to see infighting between some of the most powerful people in Donald Trump's circle. Unnecessary infighting, right? Sometimes infighting is productive. It can produce clarity and energy. But it's good to see Bannon change his tune on Elon Musk and Doge. Dan Turrentine this morning said that Elon Musk was the biggest loser for the week, and Democrats are increasingly focusing their ire on Elon. But Dr. Jean, the Independent, who was the last guest on this morning's Mark Halperin show, Bobby Kennedy supporter, he said that when Elon tires of running Doge and needs to return to the private sector, that he bring in someone like Mark Andreessen or Dan Ackman or some other highly successful billionaire. I think that's brilliant. Right? Elon Musk can't keep up this pace, right? But that doesn't mean that the good work that Doge is launched into needs to end, right? Let Elon Musk run, as long as he wants, and let him step back and allow Mark Andreessen or people from the All In podcast or Dan Ackman, let them take up the slack and move Doge forward. Right? Elon's done the difficult work. We've got all the passwords that we need, so we know how the government's spending money. So then we can just allow someone else to move in. Bob Altberger is in the chat. What part of China are you from? You have an amazing southern Chinese accent. I am from Beijing. I am 1/16 Chinese. What am I up to right now? I am sharing my wisdom with the world while walking around West Los Angeles. at least half of domestic violence is done by women. I'm a simple man. So, God forbid, I'm not a wife beater. I am a kind and considerate man. I'm super nurturing. Yes, I mean to be racist, but racism is reality. And no, you don't want to be an obsessive streamer, right? People can call you racist for anything. Yeah, no such thing as racism, so racist is just a made-up term. Racist is just an anti-white slur to get white people to shut up and not defend themselves. If women want to fight and attack like men, then they should be treated like one. Yeah, so big difference between men and women in terms of respect is that most men have been punched in the face, and I hope most women have not. So once you've been punched in the face for treating people disrespectfully, it's a life-changing experience. Will these Doge efforts have a noticeable impact on the economy? I believe so, but very mild so far. Where am I from? Mate, I am from Australia, but my father was 1/8 Chinese, so I am 1/16. My father, when he was a kid, the other school kids would call him Chinky, so he was very sensitive to being 1/8 Chinese. His mother was 1/4 Chinese, so I have a Chinese ancestor a few generations back who was a merchant in Townsville, and among the merchandise that he dealt with in the 19th century was opium. I am also a descendant of Michael Dwyer, the famed Irish rebel who escaped 3 times from British prisons until he was sent to Australia as a convict in the early 19th century. Michael Dwyer has the biggest tombstone at the Waverley Cemetery in Sydney. So my ancestry is Irish, English primarily, a lot of convict in me. I feel the blood, the Irish rebel Michael Dwyer flowing through my veins right now. How did a Chinaman get an Australian woman back then? Was it legal? So my Chinese ancestor, he's buried in a cemetery for non-Christians, right? He's buried in a cemetery with Jews and with other non-Christians. And I expect that he got a white woman because he was a good man and a good provider. He was able to provide and protect her. And he was probably a smart man, very capable. And he was adding dramatically to Queensland's human capital. Very respectable man, much like myself. This is not obsessive streaming, Elliot Blatt. I am reading, I am learning, I'm doing the work, and then I'm dropping jewels of wisdom. Have you thought about going for a Chinese woman? Sure, as long as she is open to converting to Orthodox Judaism. I try to deny it, but I have within me this yellow fever that sometimes it just burns uncontrollably. And usually I just walk around like I'm not burning up with yellow fever. But there are times where I cannot tell a lie. There are times when I cannot deny the fever. The fever right now is rising. Please pray for me.